So I've picked out these top 5 crazy neighbor horror stories. They're all hilariously disturbing and really creepy in their own way. Here's my Instagram page. Consider subscribing and clicking on the bell for more content. When I was just born, my family lived across the street from a dude who my mom said was initially really friendly, up until the point when he was caught by the police with a bunch of dead men in his basement. My dad described it like this. He was holding me in his arms, rocking me to sleep while watching TV. And he suddenly realized that the helicopter news camera on the TV was directed on the house across from us. My mom and dad went to the window and watched the guy come out in handcuffs, then a coroner with the body bags. We moved shortly after. I didn't know exactly what happened until a few years ago when my dad got drunk at a baseball game and told some of my friends. As my dad described it, the police found out that the guy had drugged random men, chained them up in his basement, and tortured them to death with some sort of weird contraption. My wife and I purchased our first house about 3 years ago. While moving in, there were new neighbors drinking on the front porch, which was no big deal. While bringing the last load of boxes into the house, my neighbor comes up, welcomes me to the neighborhood, mentions how nice my TV is. Fast forward 1 week, we're headed out to the dinner. This neighbor stops me before getting in the car and asks how long we will be gone. Huge red flag. I lie and tell him I'm just running to the gas station 1 block away and will be back immediately. Then 20 minutes later, I get a phone call from the local police. This moron broke into my house in broad daylight with 3 other neighbors watching. Luckily, these neighbors weren't pieces of crap too. He cut his hand on the window he was attempting to climb through and used his bleeding hand on every doorknob in my house. He is now a number in the US penal system. There was this old guy who lived with his wife and his dog a few doors away in a big house. He rarely left his home, and when he did, he only took his dog for a walk. He also talked very rarely and seemed to avoid other people, while his wife was somewhat more social. The couple lived on our street for a few years and everything appeared to be fine. However, someday they divorced and the lady moved away for reasons unknown. The old guy remained with the dog in his house and a few years passed. There was never something suspicious, and aside from his unusual strange behavior, everything seemed pretty normal. But one morning that was approximately 9 or 7 years ago, as usual, I left my house to catch the school bus. Our street is relatively quiet and normally there isn't much stuff going on, but this morning was a bit different. There were a few neighbors on the street and my parents said that there is something wrong with the old guy, which lived on the end of the street, but nothing specific was known. So went to school and didn't think much about it. As I returned and exited the bus at the bus stop, I saw that the whole street was closed off and evacuated. Police cars and officers were everywhere, and even a SWAT team was there. I had no idea what was going on. I met up with my parents and they explained to me that the old guy tried to take his life and planned to take the whole street with him. He flooded his entire basement with gasoline and had an improvised explosive in his garden shed, which was essentially a big pile of propane gas tanks tied together. A timer clock and a toaster served as the fuse mechanism for both the explosive and the basement. The whole thing was rigged to explode between 7 to 8 a.m. in the morning. A smaller version of this explosive was placed in the trash bin of the guys who lived right next to the maniac. Obviously, it was something personal. Before the old man triggered the explosive, he wrecked the entire interior of his house with an axe and then went to the garage with his poor dog, locked the gate, and turned his car engine on. He put his dog in the trunk and seated himself in the driver's seat, waiting to die from the asphyxiation before he would be blown to pieces. Luckily, the plan didn't work out because the neighbor heard the car engine and became very suspicious. He looked through the garage window and at first thought that the man had a heart attack. So he broke the window and entered, only to see the man more or less conscious in his car. At first, he had no idea what was going on, but then he noticed the distinctive smell of gasoline. He broke the door to enter the house and discovered the mess the old guy created. The neighbor immediately called the cops and a special squad took care of the explosive just in time. Unfortunately, the dog suffocated in the trunk and was already dead when the neighbor arrived. The authorities arrested the guy and put him into psychiatric ward after the court process. He will remain there until the end of his life. Also, the estimated blast radius of the explosive would have been sufficient enough to destroy several houses and do severe damage to the surrounding area. I had a really strange neighbor up the street that used to crouch down behind her couch and peer out at me whenever I was working on my car or doing stuff outside. I would always see just her eyes and the top of her head. She must have been crouching on the couch the whole time, sometimes for more than an hour. I knew it was her because she would move around from time to time or leave for a bit, then come back. But I guess she didn't want me to see her watching me, but I still totally did. Also, they never closed their curtains during the day. Her name was Pam. Pam was a single mom with her teenage daughter, and for the first few years, we more or less got along. We helped her move some furniture in, listened to her complain about her work, and ignored the smoke that billowed off of her adjacent back deck. I don't know what caused it, but Pam started to lose her crap. Everyone was out to get her, myself included, and she loved to call the cops. Once she called the cops because the garbage man put my trash can too close to her driveway after emptying it. And usually it was for watching TV at 9 p.m. at night because she thought any noise was a pointed attempt to keep her from sleeping. The craziest incident was when I was having an argument during the summer and some windows were open. Pam called the police and told them that I had been recording an argument that she had with her daughter and was playing it back on a loop to torment her. Pam was definitely nuts. That is it for this video. Please let me know in the comments which story you thought was the craziest. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and click on the bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.